So I want to talk about how the United States, specifically Donald Trump, is making moves that kind of looks like they're copying El-Salvador. So Nayib Bukele and his Bitcoin strategy. Now, Donald Trump addressed the Bitcoiners not too long ago, and he talked about he won't sell Bitcoin. So that's the first thing. So the strategy that the United States has sort of had, and sort of Gary Gensler, the SEC, whatever, is, Bitcoin is garbage. Bitcoin is to be sold and got rid of. Bitcoiners are criminals. Bitcoiners are using Bitcoin for illicit activities. Crypto people are, low-key trying to avoid tax, try to avoid, paying their due amounts and trying to hide something, right? And I think the fact that crypto is in the terminology, right, rather than calling it, say, digital money or something like that, the term crypto kind of, denotes something that's hidden and sort of, incognito. But of course, crypto comes from the fact that blockchain technology itself originates from cryptography, blah, blah, blah. But, whatever. Now, the reason why I say that they're trying to copy El Salvador, and it'd be interesting to see how people respond to that, is, well, Donald Trump said that not only will he not be selling his crypto, or the national crypto, they will also buy as much as possible until they reach a certain amount, right? And I think the strategy that they're trying to do is basically buy and hodl and hope that the price of Bitcoin goes up to a certain amount. And when it does, sell Bitcoin and use that to pay down the national deficit. So the US is in serious deficit. A lot of it, to do with the ridiculous out of control money printing. Some of it was associated with, the pandemic and how much money they've been printing to campaign around the world, in different countries. And just the fact that the US just spends a lot of money and prints uncontrollably, right? The Fed. And to mitigate some of that, Trump is talking about using Bitcoin. Now, at first glance, or at first hearing that, one might think that that's actually quite bullish. The United States, is not going to be selling Bitcoin. The United States is going to be buying Bitcoin. So that's another buying catalyst. And the biggest, wealthiest country in the world buying Bitcoin sounds like something amazing. There are three dangers associated with that. First of all, of course, there's this centralizing effect that's going to have on Bitcoin. So if the United States decides to start buying like crazy, of course, the price is going to go up. Of course, there's going to be a supply shock, but there's going to come a time where nobody's going to be able to compete with the United States. That's the first thing, which is why it is amazing that we have front run the whole thing, right? If you're in crypto and you're watching this right now and you own a little bit of crypto, a little bit of Bitcoin, what have you, you have already front ran 99% of the world population, right? You front ran the United States of America. I mean, okay, the United States does have Bitcoin that they seized from, Silk Road, what have you. But you have front ran what could be the biggest buy catalyst in the world that's actually going to take Bitcoin to that $1 million mark, right? So that's one thing. But that's the danger associated with it, which is the centralization of Bitcoin. The second and obvious downside to that, of course, is that if the United States buys that much Bitcoin with the intention of using it to offset the deficit, there's going to come a time when the United States is going to sell Bitcoin, at which point we're going to see the biggest dip in human history, a catastrophic dump that might pull Bitcoin back from, a price of something like 300, 400, 500,000 back to like, tens of thousands, right? So that's one thing. The third issue, of course, is that there might be a reaction from the IMF. Now, if the IMF isn't being a complete hypocrite, the way that they responded to El Salvador buying Bitcoin should be the same way that they react to the United States buying Bitcoin with treasury money, right? Which is to downgrade the dollar. If they don't do that, then they're being hypocritical. But then the United States is one of the forces that controls the IMF. So I'm not expecting anything negative to happen to the United States. Now, of course, if there's a little bit of pressure from the IMF, and say, for instance, Trump loses the next election or the following election, and another person gets in who's a Democrat, then they might reverse that Bitcoin purchase. In fact, the dumping that I mentioned earlier on might come in at a worse time. Say we're now at a bear market at that point, and then they decide to dump Bitcoin in the bear market. And that's going to take Bitcoin crashing down just monumentally, right? And a lot of people are going to get absolutely wrecked, right? Now, what can we do about this? This is really dangerous, of course. We that have front-ran the United States government, that front-ran all of this, we just have to be very vigilant and play our card right. Now, they say when two elephants are fighting, it is the grass underneath that gets the brunt of the damage. And we are sort of the grass, and these guys are the elephants that are fighting. We just need to position ourselves that when the elephants are also spraying the water from their trunks, that we are there to receive some of those drops. Now, our holdings of Bitcoin, our holdings of crypto are completely insignificant in the grand scheme of things, right? We can't compete with the likes of Michael Saylor, the United States, with Germany or whatever. And they would do what they need to do. They don't need to pay tax, you know. The United States government doesn't have to worry about tax, paying itself tax. We have to pay tax if we buy and sell crypto. You know, there are rules that are for us, that are not for them. We have to position ourselves in ways that we can maximize the gains. So say, for instance, I mean, this is not financial advice, do your own research, make your own decisions. When the United States starts to buy and you see that it peaks to the millions or what have you, right? This is the opportunity for you to make those gains real, right? Knowing that at any point, the price might come crashing down, because again, politicians will say what they need to say to win elections, and when they get replaced by different politicians, different things happen, or maybe even the things that they say will happen don't happen anyway, right? So it is important more now than ever before, those of us that hold on XRP, Bitcoin, that we capitalize on what the big elephants are doing, right? And, you know, I'm putting my strategy together. I'm not necessarily going to share what the exact strategy is because, again, I'm not qualified to give financial advice. But it's just suffices to say that, you know, don't fall asleep. Don't fall into a herd of sheep that are just regurgitating the same nonsense. Pay attention to what's going on in the macro environment. Pay attention to what the powers that be are saying, what they're doing, and make sure that you and your family get the best of what's to come. Not financial advice. See you in the next video. Peace.